This presentation is all about indicators of success, which is a model we're looking at as a staff in evaluating the impact of our teaching. Our aim here is to instill some insight into each of our teachers as to the importance of communication and understanding in effective teaching and learning. To give some context, this year we have two key goals in our Monday night professional development sessions. The first is to create opportunities to promote and demonstrate excellent pedagogy. This isn't just about looking at some of our wonderful teachers in action, but it also includes looking outwards into current pedagogical research, trends, and publications to make sure that what we offer at Cardine is reflective of the most effective strategies. We also have a strong focus on data. More and more, it is vital to be informed as a teacher, not only on your subject, but on your students, their needs, their progress, and their capacity for growth. To put things in greater context, our focus today isn't a change in our direction, but an addition to the focus and work we've been developing over the past year. Our work with digital technologies through Office 365, our focus on making learning accessible, and our current focus all fall under the same banner of challenging our perspective on teaching and learning in order to create insight. If we can walk away from these sessions thinking differently about how we deliver content, interact with students, and assess learning, then we're taking a step towards becoming more effective in what we do. As an introduction to this session, all staff participated in a short lesson facilitated by one of 4 specialist teachers. The focus of the experience was to have teachers consider how their perspective of learning changed from the moment they entered the classroom to the moment they left. Each simulated classroom was based on something different, perhaps an area of discomfort or something you have less familiarity with. The reason for this was to put staff in a position where they were having to learn something without prior knowledge, which is the same position our students experience on a daily basis. We unpacked this experience, focusing on how expectations changed, how we measured the growth and outcome of the lesson as a student, and we challenged staff to think about what made the experience effective or ineffective for them. I think sometimes as teachers, we can get a bit stuck waiting for some big system-wide change to come about that will change the face of teaching and learning as we know it. But what research suggests, however, is that the most significant effects on learning occur due to small changes in the day-to-day practice. It's about individual teachers making decisions to improve their approach, to teach something slightly differently, or to refine their approach. The beauty of this is that it doesn't take much to make a difference. We mentioned earlier that one of our focuses is on how we use data to inform our practice. But part of the insight we need to gain from today is the fact that data comes in many different forms, whether formal, observational, or through tasks and activities. The key question that underpins our approach in this case is, what evidence do I have that my student will continue to be successful? In many cases, students can start showing the signs that they will miss a due date or submit an incomplete or poor standard piece of work well before the expected submission date. So how do we draw out this information in an efficient and consistent way to make sure that students are being supported by their learning? I think the more we progress in our understanding of learning, the more we realise that there is no one-size-fits-all model for effective teaching and learning that will apply to all students. For this reason, we need to differentiate, provide accommodations and interventions to support and extend understanding. We recognise, of course, that this is difficult to do when you have 30 students in a classroom. So don't think that we're asking you to write 30 different lesson plans 7 lessons a day. It isn't about doing the impossible, but it is about changing our mindset and looking for opportunities in our teaching design to respond to the data that students are giving us. We know that the work of John Hattie has had a considerable impact on the language of education in the past 5 years. This is because his research consolidates the validity of different approaches. There is a lot to unpack in Hattie's work around effect sizes and strategies. However, at its core, and at the core of what we're conveying today. It's about being mindful of the impact that you have on each of your students in your class. It's about asking yourself critical questions along the way, such as, is what I'm doing working? Are all students responding to my approach? Am I getting the result I was hoping for? Could I have approached this differently? This is the cornerstone of effective, reflective practice. As mentioned, part of our goal is to give you insight into a model of approach for teaching and learning, which Hattie describes through 4 steps. Define learning intention. What is it we want the students to demonstrate? What skills are we developing? And what is the relevance of this skill moving forward? Identify success indicators. How will we know that students are moving towards the intention purposefully? What are our indicators and checkpoints with students to identify their progress and understanding prior to assessment? Set up interventions. What if a student is not meeting or exceeding our expectations? How does the learning change to accommodate the needs of the student? What are the streams of progress we could put in place? Reflect on result. How effectively was the learning intention met across the cohort? And what does this reflect about the effectiveness of our teaching and how well we've delivered, supported, and assessed learning? In our next Monday session, we will be working to unpack the implications of this model in the context of your own teaching. We'll be asking you to reflect on a lesson in your near future and evaluate it in regards to what your intention is for the learning, how you will know what the students are successful in following that intention, the interventions you could put in place to support the learning, and your process of review to ensure that impact has been achieved. In exposing you to this model today, however, our hope is that you will walk out of this session with insight as to how you can more effectively approach your teaching in order to better support your students.